Okay, guys. Decided to. I put the crank in. Everything's installed, lubed up. I'm using something a little different this time. It's made by Lucas. I'll put this in front of there. May or may not be able to read it. It's a semi-synthetic assembly lube. It's green. It's actually pretty thick, tacky. Actually leaves strings coming off your fingers. I really like that better than that white garbage. It's really thin and can wash off after time. And again, I'm trying to do things different and as right as I possibly can on this build, since I had that failure before. So you know how it is. Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm checking the crankshaft in play. Basically, got a magnetic base and a dial indicator. These things are very, very inexpensive. I paid too much for this. I went to Harbor Freight when I was in Tennessee last year, and I was waiting for my wife. She was in class, so I was just sitting at the hotel room, and they had a Harbor Freight there in town. So I went down there and I picked up one of these. When I got it partially out to the vehicle, it self-destructed, because when he dropped it in the bag, it actually tore the box. And when I got out to the deal there, it had actually started regurgitating its contents all over the parking lot behind me, and I didn't have the right parts to fix it, and it actually was broke anyway. So somebody must have returned it, and they just put it back on her not knowing what it was or what it does. So I ended up having to buy one of these bases. It ended up being like 50 bucks here in town. When you want it and got to have it, I was doing a rear end in an 08 Tahoe. And that's what I did. This phase 2 dial indicator, I've had that thing for years, and been in a box until just recently. I bet I've had it 10, 15 years, and never have got it out of the box till I did that rear end. Well, anyway, what I'm doing is checking the crankshaft in play, and it is saying that I have to have 0.0015 to 0078. So let's put this at 0. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you got a reflection off that or not. I got it at 0, and for me anyway, it's 0. So let's see what we got. I've got, which way am I going here? I probably have to 0 it again. Hang on. Which way am I going here? Oh, yep, let me 0 it here. Okay. Yep. Okay, 0. I got 0.004, just a tad over 4,000. So it's under 5,000, basically 4,000 if you don't put any pressure on it. And I needed 1.5 to 7.8. So I'm between the 1.5 and 7.8. I'm at 0.004 instead of 0.0015 or 7.8. So crankshaft in play is good. Here, let me pull this off here. The magnet still works on good. Okay. Well, let me. Hopefully you can see what I was doing there. I don't know how much more battery gigazaps I got on this thing, so I'm going to have to take her in here in a minute, charge it up. It takes forever to charge this camera. It's been sitting in the garage for a week and a half. Keep forgetting about it. Okay. Anyway, it spins. It's got a drag, and I can hear that stuff, the lube, and boy, it feels good. I really like this better than that other stuff. I won't use that ever again. I will use this this Lucas stuff from now on. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that I checked that, because a lot of people kind of skip that, thinking that, well, if I can spin the crank over, I'm fine, and that could have caused the aluminum partially to get in, but it wouldn't have caused the oil pressure issues that I had immediately. So I'm pretty sure the end play was good, but I say that I didn't check it. So when you don't check something, saying it's good does not make it good. So I mean, numbers speak. You know what I'm saying? Doing it, looking at it, researching it, checking the numbers, buying the right books, getting the right information, doing it right can actually save you money. I don't know how much money I have into that 4.8, but it was a fail. If I really was going to keep that thing, and you know, for my wife to drive or whatever, I'm going to put this motor. So double your money on what it costs to do that. And now I'm not only lost time, lost my money, but I'm going to have, you know, it just hurts. You know, I mean, there's just so many things that you know, when you think, doggone, I should have done this, should have done that. It doesn't do any good. Saying it, doing it, just get after it and do it. So anyway. You guys saw the plastigauge. I know the video wasn't the best. It's hard to see. It's hard to do. It's kind of dark this end of my shop. I've got too many cars and stuff here in the shop. I can't get back over where I need to, where the light is. But everything looked good in the plastic gauge. Not only did I check it on the crank, which I kind of videoed that, but then I also checked it on the bearings themselves, which was a little hard because it's, you know, curved, but it's doable because that plastic, you know, that paper and that plastic gauge, you know, allows you to do that. And then I checked the end plate. So crank is in, it's installed, it's torqued, its side bolts are in, everything is done. Crank is now 100% finished. Now we're going to go to the rods, and I'll probably check a few cylinders. I did it off camera, but I may show you. I put a top ring in halfway down a cylinder on one that's got a pretty good gouge in it, and then I re-honed it, and I started getting abusive with it, and I broke my stone and then started chewing the cylinder up even worse, so I had to quit. It's still within spec, but it's got a gouge in it I don't like, but it's small. It's you know, I could possibly lose a little oil and a little compression, but very, very little. It's just a small gouge, but I don't like it. If I was building this for myself to, you know, well, I am building this for myself, but if I was building for somebody else, I wouldn't do it, is what I meant to say. For me, I don't plan on selling this engine. I'll probably put it in something else. I'm not sure what yet. May put it in my Malibu behind that 700R. I don't know, because my Malibu is fine, but it has over 300,000 miles on it. 5.3 that's in it. She's starting to smoke. Apparently I've over RPM'd it a handful of times. Still holds good oil pressure. Still runs great, except that I still have trouble with that drive-by-wire going into limp mode, and it's the connection. And whether it's the harness, I think it's a harness connection itself, because like I said, I've changed that throttle body. If anybody's watched any of the videos on that Malibu, which are very few and far between. But what I'd like to do is to kind of show, not necessarily an LS swap, but it's one that I've already done and a couple 3 years ago. But it'll show you when I take it apart, you know, what oil pan I used. I had to modify the windage tray a little bit using the Holley oil pan. The motor mount plates I used, what I had to do to the clamshells to get to work, and stuff like that. So like I said, it probably won't be an entire swap because I did the wiring harness, but I did it on my in the floor in the den, and I'm not saying reuse your old harnesses. It's just it was a real budget, you know, build in. And now when I say budget, it's because I'm doing it myself for myself. If I didn't have so many projects, I don't mind spending 10 grand on something, but when I have so many things going and a wife, I just can't just drop endless funds. So anyway, I'm going to get off here, quit yakking. Next one you'll see, I'll be putting the rods in. Alright, I'm going to do a little plastic gauging on the rods. I'm only going to do number 1 and 2, and I'm not sure this is the right way to do it. Again, you need to do your own research before you try any of this stuff on your own. But I basically just cut a piece long, stuck it in there. Number 2 is in. This has not been torqued. It's just loosely assembled. Number 1 is here. I've already put a bearing in it. Cap's already got a bearing, but I don't have it in yet. These are actually got a dot saying which way's, you know, forward, back, and as I've said before, this is also very important to remember. These LS anything so far that I have been told, they do not cut these rods in half. They break them in half. It's somewhat calculated the way they do it. It's engineered, but it is broken half, not cut. So the rod cap stays with this rod, and it only goes one direction. You cannot just take a cap off of another rod and stick on it and make it work without them having machined first. And what I mean by that, and it's hard to see because it's got a little rust because of sitting, but you can see how rough cut that is, and this is the same way. So if you try to put this on backwards per se, it sort of looks like it comes together, but it rocks and it is not tight. And I don't know if you're actually looking at that. It has to go the right direction, and once it's together, it's tight. It's a fit. So anyway, make sure that everything's clean side to side, top to bottom before you try putting this in. Make sure your piston's going the right direction. I don't think doing this 2 at a time is the way it was designed, because it's not really allowing that plastic gauge to be dead center in the rod cap. So I don't know that this is right, but to me it needs to kind of hit even all the way around. I know sometimes when I'm taking them apart you can see where it rubs a little harder one way than the other, but again, this is just kind of show you how to do it. This is not how to do it, but how I'm doing it. And because like I said, this has to be done in my book because something is not right with what happened to the other one. I'm not sure what it is, so my decision was made for me. I do not have rings on these pistons. This makes it so easy to put these in without having to worry about scuffing or rings, or like I said in the previous videos, you just I'll put this one down, get this pulled up, but because it was easy without the other piston in, but basically without rings I didn't have to, this thing just comes right together without any issues at all. Make sure again you have it lined up the proper way. I marked these with stamps, just like I did in the 4.8 build. Again, if there's anything that you want to specifically see, if I did not cover it on the 4.8 build, give me, shoot me a question. I had a few questions on some things before. I don't remember if it was specifically on the build or not. Somebody did ask me what the difference is between the 4.8 and the 5.3 because they share the same block, which I have said many times before, and that is completely accurate. When you look at the front of a 4.8 or 5.3 block, it actually is it's actually stamped into, well, it's actually cast into the block. It says 4.8, it's got a slash underneath it to the side, it says 5.3. They share the same block, they share the same bore. They do not share the same crank rod or piston. Although pistons will, I was told, interchange. The 4.8 uses a flat top piston, the 5.3 uses a dish. They use the same head. So the 4.8 has a little bit more compression than the 5.3, and the reason they did that was to kind of compensate for the size of the actual cubic inch difference. From a what is that? A 4.8 is 290, 296. 290. I don't remember what cubic inch it is. And then 5.3 is 325 cubic inch. Oh, and what the difference is actually in the stroke. It's not obviously your bore, because the bore is the same, 4.8, 5.3, but the stroke is different. The 5.3, the 4, I got it. 5.3, 5.7, which is the LS1. The 6.0 and the 6.2, I'm not saying they share the same rod, but they all share the same rod length. The 4.8 does not. It is its own length. I can't, off the top of my head, I could look in this book and tell you exactly what it is, but it's not the same. But the 5.3, 5.7, 6 liter, 6.2 share the same rod length. The 4.8 does not. Okay, let's find torque specs on connecting rod. Torque specifications on connecting rods, V8 step 1. And it says first design and second design. And I went through this before. And I don't remember. I wonder if they mean after 2003, because that seems to be the magic number, 99 to 02 and then 03 up. So I'm going to consider this second design. The difference is it's 15 foot-pounds initial on both first and second design, foot-pounds of torque with a torque wrench, and then it says first design it's the additional 60 degrees, and the second design is an additional 75 instead of 60. So I'm going to go ahead and do 75 degrees because I just don't know. And the clearance, let's see, rod bearing clearance, V8 engines is 9 thousandths to 25 thousandths. Or if you remember, it was 8 thousandths to 21 thousandths. or 0.008 to 0.0021, and I was looking at the rods for some reason on the other, but they're not that far off from each other. And the rods were still in. I was still, their mains were still in. So yeah, I looked at that earlier and I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, it's 9 thousandths basically, or 009 to 0025. Like I said, I don't know what I was thinking on another deal. But anyway, let's go ahead and, it was still within. I checked those numbers earlier because I double checked everything. Because I couldn't remember what was what. Alright, let's get the torque wrench set. I always take it off. It's 10. 15 thousandths. They're 10 millimeter. I believe. They're 10s. No, they're not. 11s? Are they 13? Oh, they're 11s. Of course they are. Alright. So first step, 15 thousandths. Remember, do not turn the crankshaft, so we got to be real careful here. One, two, three. All right, that's 15 thousandths for both of them. Now we need to go an additional. This is where I'm going to have trouble not turning that crankshaft. I don't have anything to hold it either. So I got to be real careful. Get this to where this won't turn. I'm going to go 75 degrees, hopefully without crank turning. I want to step in front of the camera. Sorry, don't really have a choice. 30, 50, 60. There you go, and that's one of them. I know I'm in front of the camera. I'm sorry. Let me try to move this. That's somebody messaging me. It's hard to say who it is or what they want, but it's always somebody wanting something. I'm 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. All right. No, it doesn't like it that way. Alright, that's, take the angle gauge off. See what we got. Holy cow. Another reason why I haven't put too many videos out on some of this stuff is because I probably said in another video, and if you guys don't, I know a lot of times I jump around on my videos and I do different projects, and that's, you know, I've said here not that long ago, now don't take all those loose because there's no rings. So as soon as you loosen that up, take that loose, that piston's going to fall out. So make sure you don't do that. Or hold the piston. My wife kind of got me horned in here a few months ago teaching 3 Filipino girls who come over here to the States legally, yay for them, and teaching them how to drive. And the one who actually had a driver's license before over in the Philippines, she wasn't so bad. She's definitely not familiar with a lot of the rules. We've had some issues with not looking at intersections, like to see if it's 4-way stop or 2-way stop or whatever. But she did real good, and she got her driver's license, and her husband and baby that she left behind, which must have been real hard on her, like it just turned 1 year old here in the next couple of weeks, or week and a half. They're going to be coming over here, so helped them get, or she got an apartment or a small house to rent, and I helped her out the other day. We went up and I negotiated at one of the car lots up there. We managed to get her a car, and she did it all on her own. I mean, I helped with the negotiation because you kind of got to do that. When you're not used to them, some of them salesmen trying to shove stuff down your throat. Anybody who's bought a car from a car lot knows what I'm talking about. But got her in a new car, well, newer, it's a 17 Ford, and she got it all took care of. I got to go look at it. She said it's making a sound. It's hard to say what it is, but I don't think she's just used to having the car yet. But I'll go over and look at it tomorrow with her. Okay, now if you remember, like I actually called it the mains these same numbers, but they weren't that far off. They were 008 instead of 009, but these are supposed to be .009 to 0015. Where are we at? That's hard. Keep getting the page off. I said it 500 times. .0009 to .0025. I don't know if you can see this. You can see where you're looking. Well, my battery didn't charge up that much, did it? You're not even seeing what I'm looking at, but we'll move you over here a little closer and face you to the ground, basically. Yeah, you can kind of see that green line there. Probably just deafened you. Okay, see what you got. Now, mind you, the wider it is, the tighter the clearance. Does that make sense? So if it barely touched, that means you get way too much clearance. If it's smashed, its guts out, you don't have enough clearance. So with a plastigauge, you have to keep that in mind. So if I look at it here and it's not wide enough, that means the clearances are too much. And if it's too wide, that means it's too much clearance, or it's not enough. It's smashed it too tight. So let's find out what we got. It's just a tad over 002. So at its widest point, yeah, it's less. Well, it's more than 0. So less than. It's not quite 0015, but it's really close to that one. And this one it's the same thing. It's a little wider than the 002, so it's more like 0015. And I'm allowed 00225. And actually they said the maximum clearance, because this actually had a maximum allowable, was 003, and I'm not anywhere close to that. I'm less than 002, but I'm a tad more than 0015. So if I was 003, it would only be that wide, because again, less amount, wider gap. So I'm actually more than 002, but I'm a little less than 0015. So I'm well within both of them. Look good. So I'm happy with that. I'm not going to go through all these rods with you. I'm going to check them all, but I'm not. There's no sense in video in it. You kind of see. To do it right, you probably need to do one individual at a time. But I think this worked fine. For me, I'm going to call that good. The biggest thing I've seen was you got to be careful with the crank turning. I don't have any way to stop it from turning without sticking longer bolts like in the end of the crank where the flex plate would be. Possibly hold it that way, but maybe even stick the bolt back in the end of the crank where the dampener goes. You could possibly hold it with like a wrench, if you get it in there snug enough, just to make sure it doesn't turn. But I didn't have any issues with that. Again, that the lube I used on this is kind of tight, and if I clean this up, I put and go ahead and put the rings and put 1 and 2 in. That will actually even tighten it up more to where I don't, where the next 2 won't turn even, not even. And this didn't turn, but you can see it could. And make sure you don't do the rods without having the crank completely finished in and lubricated, because you do have to turn the crank to line up the next rods. So make sure that's completely done before you do this one. You don't want to turn that. So anyway, guys, that's how you do it. I'm going to check the rest. If I have any problems, I will bring you back and show you the problem. But I don't think I'm going to have any issues with this. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. And the next segment in this will most likely be putting the oil pump on. I checked one of the rings. Like I said, I stuck one of the top rings in about halfway down and checked it. I was allowed all the way up to like 17 thousandths. Let me look here. Ring, piston ring, 2006. That's V6. 2006 and later. A V8. Okay. Piston bore clearance. Okay, piston ring gap. 99 to 01 was a little different. This is an 04, so 2002 and later was 0.015 to 0.023, and sorry, I'm reading this here. I'm actually right at the. It was tight. Seems like I was at 15 thousandths, which is minimum, and it was tight. I mean, I could get it in there, but I about just about had to dang near force it to go. So that's actually a good number. It's a little tight, but it won't take long for that to kind of seat itself in. How you do that to check the rings, it's the same kind of a deal. Don't put the rings on the pistons, obviously. Whatever ring you do, don't mix them up either. Once you do a certain cylinder with a certain ring, that's what you want to do, especially if you're file fitting them. If I was building this as a boost engine, you actually have to open those gaps up or you'll break the piston under boost. Literally break the piston. The rings actually expand. Piston doesn't expand the same. They're different materials, and actually break that top edge of that ring, your piston off. And boy, let me tell you what, it's catastrophic. You basically destroy the engine doing it. So I got to find out who's texting me. Good grief. Anyway, so what I got is I checked it. It was a little tight for that, so you could file fit that if you wanted, or clean them up, But I'm going to recheck them just to make sure. But what you do is let's say you're going to do piston cylinder 1. Put your middle ring started in the cylinder. You don't need a compressor for that. You can actually get those in without that piston kind of getting in your way. You can actually kind of make that fit in there. And then you take the piston that doesn't have any rings on it, obviously, and slide that, push that ring in about halfway down, and that, because that squares that ring up. It's not in there kind of crooked. So it's kind of a simple deal to do. And you do that with that middle ring, and you do it with the top. Just make sure that you put them on that particular piston that came out of that particular hole. So you know what I'm saying? If you're doing number 1, then those rings stay with that number 1 piston, and you put them back together. As soon as you get it done and you got your clearance right, then put those rings on that piston. That way you know where they go, and that will definitely help and save you some headaches later on. So I'm going to get out of here, guys. We'll talk to you later.